It's cold out there, 8971 wrote. Can you share some tips on how you keep going on your extended fast? Absolutely. I'll share every single thing that keeps me going. But first, welcome to day 48 of my fasting journey. I'm currently 88 hours fasted and will be breaking tonight at around the 91-hour mark. I'm actually having dinner with an old coworker and I am so excited to eat. Tonight will be my 12th consecutive fast. The last 10, including tonight, will be around or over the 90-hour mark. In fact, my last 11 fasts have averaged 93 hours and 16 minutes. That's just shy of a 4-day fast and an eating window of 2 hours and 43 minutes. Think of it like this. I fast for about 4 days and then I eat for about 3 hours. Fast for 4 days, eat for 3 hours, repeat. This is how it's been for me in the last almost 7 weeks. This morning I weighed in at 174.6 pounds, 79.2 kilo, planting me right in the mid 170s. This is a 43.2 pound drop, 19.6 kilo in 48 days, or a day shy of 7 weeks. I really worked for this drop this past 90-hour fast. And by that, I mean, I didn't just fast, but I really pushed myself exercise-wise. So instead of doing my 1 hour daily walks, I was actually doing more like an hour and a half, and then some days 2 hours. And gym-wise, strength training, 3-4 times a week even. I've just had so much more energy since I've lost the weight that I feel like I can push harder, I can work harder, I can go longer, and I've just been feeling good. So let's talk about Cold Out There's comment on how do I keep going on these extended fasts. Number one, it all starts here. Before you did anything, you mentally told yourself that you were going to fast. The question is, did you tell yourself, did you remind yourself how difficult this could be? Maybe you did, but I think the one thing that's really important is that you need to tell yourself this over and over and over again. Unless you're fasting for 30, 60, 90 days, it's something that you're going to have to keep reminding yourself as you complete your fast, as you refeed, and as you fast again. Every morning when I wake up, I know I'm doing one of two things. I'm either eating or not eating. It's as simple as that. I do not bargain with myself. I don't sit and say, well, let's see how the day goes. I'm already telling myself from the start of the day, as soon as I wake up, am I eating? Yes or no? Instead, I just do it. That sounds easy, but it isn't. If it was, I wouldn't have left YouTube 2.5 years ago and gained all the weight back. So I know what it's like, but I've also lost the weight through fasting and kept it off for almost 2 years. So I also know what that's like. Don't think that those 2.5 years I was gone from YouTube that I didn't try, because I did. I even just tried to do OMAD and I still couldn't do it. It was so tough. It was so tough to mentally prepare myself to do any kind of fast. Even if I could get through the day and just do OMAD and even have an okay meal, I would still overeat. I don't know what it was, but I think even though I wanted to do it, even though I wanted to fast and be healthier and do the right things, for some reason, I would break. I would say, this is too hard. Even though I knew I could probably do it, I felt like the addiction to food, the addiction to stress eat and emotionally eat was so strong that I would just purposely fail. And then one day I just said, fuck it. And I live streamed on YouTube the day before I started, announced exactly what I was going to do. And here we are 48 days later, 43 plus pounds down and still going. Your mindset has to be laser focused on fasting and your eating habits. You have to accept what you're doing as a lifestyle. Fasting is a lifestyle, it is a way of eating. It also doesn't mean that you have to fast for X hours forever, because eventually the way that you're doing it will help you lose weight and hopefully get you to your goal weight that you can then work on maintenance and have a much smaller fasting window. That's how I get through it. I tell myself every day that what I'm doing is working. I see the numbers progress fast after fast after fast. and that helps me keep going. I know that 90-hour fasts aren't for everyone. I also know that my 4,500, 5,000 calorie, sometimes more than that refeeds aren't for everyone. But I do know that when I fast for 90 plus hours and eat 4 to 5,000 calories, I can still lose weight. I can actually see that number on the scale drop every single time. And I will tell you that that is such a huge motivator for me to see that number go down on the scale and to still eat what I want. It helps me know that, hey, I need to fast today, because if I don't, I'm not going to hit the numbers that I need to hit. I know that the numbers on the scale aren't everything, but right now, what I'm doing, seeing those numbers drop, is the motivation for me that helps me keep going. Number two, if this is your first time around, or you haven't fasted for a while, or you haven't fasted for X number of hours ever before, I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to suck. And you're going to have to suck it up. You have to ride that wave of hunger and cravings and your mind telling you that you have to eat or you're going to die. Again, if you are a healthy individual and you have extra weight, you're overweight, or you're obese, you are not going to starve. Once it passes, you'll notice that hunger and those cravings start to diminish, and they will diminish as you continue to do this time and time again. Now remember, most of us who haven't done this ever, or who haven't fasted for a while, you're gonna go through some shit. You might have caffeine withdrawal if you're not taking caffeine anymore. You will definitely have carb withdrawal if you've been eating carbs every day and then all of a sudden start fasting. You're gonna have headaches. You might have some nausea. You might feel weak. All of these things might happen when you are doing these fasts for the first time. So you need to keep that in mind. And that's why I have to say that you have to suck it up. So when I first came back and did my first 42-hour fast after not doing anything that extended in 2.5 years, it was awful. I mean, I wasn't on my deathbed, but I did feel pretty shitty. And once that 42 hours passed and then I refed, I then continued on a 65-hour fast. I did that. That felt a lot better. And then ever since then, my 90 plus hour fasts back to back to back to back to back has been pretty good. Now, I don't know if it's because I fasted for so long prior that I've done these fasts over and over and my body just remembered. I don't know. I don't know the science behind it, but I'm just sharing with you that it's going to suck at first for a lot of people, if not most people. But I can almost guarantee you that if this is something that you do time and time again, it will get easier. It will get better. Remember, a lot of this is in your head, and you need to focus on that. Thinking of that you are not going to die of starvation, especially if you are overweight or obese, you're going to be okay. Number three, electrolytes. Make sure you take them. I did a video or a live stream on this last Sunday, so feel free to check that out. You might have to scrub through it. I don't remember exactly when I got into it, but even if you don't watch it, the three things that you need, this is just the very basics of it: sodium, potassium, magnesium. A lot of that is what helps the headaches, what helps the nausea, what helps the weakness. I've also heard that's what helps muscle cramps, I think. So I've never actually experienced muscle cramps when I fasted, even when I first started fasting and I didn't know what the hell I was doing. For those that don't know, I did an 11-day fast back in 2018, completely cut caffeine, and then obviously no carbs because I was fasting, just straight water with no electrolytes. And that was pretty awful. Something that I know now I will never do again without electrolytes. But during that time, yeah, I felt weak and nauseous, but I never had muscle cramps. But again, electrolytes should help with that. Number four, go outside. And if you're able to, exercise. Let's get the going out part first. One of the things that I had a really hard time when I was starting to binge eat and emotionally eat is I locked myself in my apartment. I also worked remote, so I really didn't have any reason to leave my apartment. That was the biggest mistake because what ended up happening in my experience is that I was just so depressed. I felt so embarrassed about the weight gain that I didn't even want to set foot out the door. Now that I'm fasting again, even at day one, when I was at my heaviest, I still made sure to go out and go for a walk. It doesn't mean that you have to go for a walk, but I will just suggest that going outside, maybe getting some vitamin D is helpful than just fasting and staying in. The reason I feel that exercise is helpful, even if it's a 5-minute walk, even if it's a 10-minute walk to start, I feel that combining the fasting regimen with exercise kind of completes what you're doing as a healthier lifestyle. At the end of the day, it's a healthy thing to do. But I feel like it also complements or it even accelerates the process of losing weight. It feels like you're doing something more than just sitting, waiting for time to pass by. I think if you're just fasting and you're just staying at home all day because you can't exercise, you can't go for a walk, you can't strength train, you can't live your life, you can't go to work, then I would suggest not fasting for that long and working your way up there. Again, for me, I'm able to do all of these things even on a 90+ hour fast. This morning, I went for an hour and 45-minute walk. I went to the gym and I probably lifted much harder than I normally have been in the past. And this was probably at 70 or 80-ish hours fasted. I don't check my app when I'm, fasting for the entire day until it's time to break. But even on my longer fasts, I'm able to carry on with my life and do work and make this video while I'm 88+ hours fasted, maybe 89 by now. I don't know. Anyway, I'm just saying sometimes getting some fresh air, getting some exercise, even going to the gym and you don't have to lift super heavy. You can just kind of go through the motions. For me, I feel like you're doing more than just sitting around, again, waiting for time to pass by, hoping that you're going to hit your fasting goal. If you're able to get around and move around, because that's really what should be the goal. You should be doing this enough so that you can actually live your life instead of laying in bed hoping that your X hours is going to hit sooner rather than later. Number 5 is taking care of your mental health. So one of the things that I think has been so helpful for me is going to therapy. This does not mean that you have to go to therapy. I'm just saying that for someone like me who has dealt with disordered eating, with binge eating, with even purging in the past, depression, dealing with things that I used to do, running away from my problems, getting therapy for that has been helpful in moving forward with my fasting and just being a better person, a healthier person, not only in body, but in mind as well. Some of the things that go through my head, and this isn't therapy, but just in general, is I think about all the pros that come with fasting. I think about all the things that fasting is helping me with: weight loss, getting my diabetes under control, getting my blood pressure under control, feeling more energetic, having the energy to go out and exercise. And a lot of that also helps with my confidence. It's a boost to my mental health. And then I think about all the cons that come with stress eating and emotional eating. And when I used to do that, it gave me that really quick high, that feeling of pleasure of eating whatever I want and not caring about what effects that it might do to my body, just enjoying the mind high or the dopamine hit that I get from it. But the consequences of doing that, when I think about where it put me and the relationships I've lost, not even just personally, but also through work and other things, and not caring about things and just spending my money on whatever because I was too obsessed with food, I don't want to go back to that. I do not want to go back to that. And it's one of the things that keeps me going. I do sit with my thoughts a lot more than I used to in the past, especially when I go for these long walks. And sometimes I'll take a break after walking for an hour and a half or so. I sit with my thoughts. I think about so many things that come to my mind, whether I'm having issues and knowing that I can't eat or stress eat to make them go away. But I think about a ton of other things too. I think about hitting my goal numbers. I think about that a lot. I'm just being honest. It's something that I think about as I'm going for my walks. I'm like, okay, another week, maybe this is where I'm going to be at, or maybe I'm going to fit into this size clothes. And maybe one day I can go back to my storage unit and grab all my smaller clothes that I used to wear when I weighed 130 or 140. I even think about going to the doctor in January when I have health insurance and hoping for better numbers and improving on those numbers, working better to lose even more weight so that the numbers are in normal range. This is what I think about. Again, the mind, the mentality, the mindset is such a big part of this, and I don't think it's talked about too often. 6, I don't just drink water. I get this question asked a lot. I drink iced coffee, I drink cold brew, I'll add ice in that. I'll drink unsweetened iced tea. Notice all my drinks are cold. I don't care for hot drinks. I drink diet pop or diet soda for others, or a diet Coke, a diet Dr. Pepper, a Sprite Zero, and I eat ice. These are things that I do to help me prolong my fast, to keep going. Doesn't mean that you have to do it. I know there are people who want to, not take the artificial flavors, and I get that. That's up to you. But for me, that's what helps me keep going. Number 7, stay busy. One of the things that helps me stay busy is work. And I work a lot, probably more than I should. It's a very bad habit that I need to be better about, because I know that's one of the things that derailed me 2.5 years ago. But my work is different today. I enjoy what I do. I work as a photographer. I work at 3 different studios sometimes. I work at car dealerships, shooting cars. I work shooting events for a couple nonprofits. I edit videos, I edit photos. These are things that take up a lot of my time. But when I'm home, I'll watch TV, I'll play video games. I get immersed in hobbies that don't revolve around food. Staying busy is a good way to pass the time, especially when you're fasting. Number 8, I watch people eat. This might be a trigger to some, but when I'm hungry, when I'm especially hungry, I will watch people on YouTube eat food. And I don't like watching people who eat one food, like when somebody eats 300 cookies or whatever in one sitting. I like when someone actually eats a buffet of food, like a variety of food, because I don't know what it is. I would love to know and learn the science of how this works, but I guess in that moment, I'm vicariously living through them eating. And I think that's why a lot of you watch my episodes of Refeed, because maybe that's what you're imagining. And it helps kind of curb that hunger in a weird way. Now, I know that's not going to be for everyone. I know that might be triggering for others to eat, but for me, and it doesn't happen all the time either, I usually will start watching people eat when I'm like 2 days or 3 days fasted, but that's what helps, at least for me, to kind of keep going. Number 9, sleeping well. This is something that I did not prioritize before, and I prioritize now. It still can be better, but it's much better now than it used to be. I sleep and wake up at the same time almost every day, which actually leads me to number 10, which is routine. When it comes to routine, the moment I wake up, I go for a walk. That's the very first thing I do, unless it's a rest day. But 6 out of 7 days, I'm up and I'm going for a walk. If I have more time, I'll walk even longer. If I have even more time, I will walk to the gym, I'll lift weights, and then I'll walk back home, or I'll go for an even longer walk. After all of that, I go to work. I do whatever I'm doing, whatever I'm shooting for that day. And then when I come home, that's my time to kind of unwind a little, maybe watch a couple of YouTube videos. I don't know. I'm trying to think of other things that I typically do. It's not a ton, but yeah, maybe play video games, or clean my apartment, or maybe even just shop sometimes on Amazon, or go to a store and look for new clothes, which is actually something I've been doing lately. And then by the time I know it, it's time to sleep. And sometimes I'll even sleep early just so I can get through the day, because I've already had a long day and there's nothing wrong with getting an extra hour sleep, since I'm only averaging around 6.5 or so. So that's really what helps me too. Number 11, having a backup plan. This doesn't help prolong a fast, but this is something I think is crucial to have when you are fasting. Do you have a backup plan? Let me share mine. It's really simple. Right now, I'm doing 90+ hour fasts. If for whatever reason I can't get through a 90+ hour fast, I will refeed in a 4 hour window, and then I will do another 90+ hour fast. Simple as that. Yours doesn't have to be super intricate or complex or anything like that. Just have a backup plan so that you do not derail if you don't hit the hours that you intended to hit. Number 12, support. Find an accountability partner. Find a group of people who are fasting, who are like minded, and you can share your progress with them. Hell, comment on my videos and tell me where you're at and how you're doing. I know I've said this before, but I actually read all the comments. I might not have time to reply to every single one, but I read all of them. Trust me, I do. Join the Sunday live streams and talk in chat with others, because a lot of people are sharing their stories as I'm doing my live streams. And I think that's great. It's a great way to build community. And speaking of which, I am actually working on something right now to help build this community. It's not going to be Discord. It's not going to be Reddit. It's not even going to be Facebook or anything like that. I'm actually working on something completely different, but I think it's going to be a really great way to share your progress, even post pictures of where you're at and where you're going and how you're feeling and how long you've been fasting for. And other people can comment on that. But again, I'm working on that, and that will be coming very, very soon. But again, finding support, especially with like-minded people who understand the fasting lifestyle, I think is very beneficial to help keep you going on your goals of fasting. And finally, number 13 is to be kind to yourself. One of the things that I continually tell myself is that what I'm doing is not going to always be easy, that I eventually will fail somehow, and that when and if I do, when is more likely, it's going to be okay. Give yourself some grace. Be kind to yourself. Love yourself. Accept yourself. Know that we're not perfect, and there's nothing wrong with that. It might not help prolong your fast. It might even encourage you to break your fast early. But I think the bigger point of this is to know that you can do it again. Even if you fail, you can get up and do it again. I am proof of that. I really am. I know that I had a very rough 2.5 years of gaining all that weight back, being depressed, losing people that were close to me in my life. And even despite all of that, I found a way to come back here and show everyone that, hey, I did it before and I can do it again. And I've said this before, but you can too.